friends, this is Shelly from Koala Knits and Knacks, and we are going to make these hot pads. They are so cute. They're thick and they'll just take that heat just wonderfully from your hot pots or pans, or you can use them for other things too. And I mentioned some ideas in the video, but I used Caron Cotton Ripple Cakes in French vanilla. And just like for both of these, I think I used like not even half a ball. And then scrap yarn for the duplicate stitching. So you can find the duplicate stitching patterns at the end of the video. So grab your 46 needle Addi machine and your supplies, and we'll make these together. All right, so once you have your Addi 46 needle machine set up, then let's begin. You're going to need waste yarn in a contrasting color to your working yarn so that you can easily close the ends with a flat stitch at the end. So I'll show you that when we get to that part. But let's bring our last white and our first black needle in line with our yarn guide. Now, you know that I take a black permanent marker and I mark that little divider, so then you know when it's always coming around. If this is your first time watching my video, then go ahead and grab yourself a permanent marker and mark that. You will not regret it. The machines should come with that marked. I think that they should change their machine and they should mark that last that divider peg with a different color and improve their machines in that way. Because I'm telling you, it makes such a difference. So you're going to go behind and in front of each needle all the way around until you get to the last white needle, and it should be behind that last white needle, and if it's not, then you need to start over and make sure it lines up properly, okay? And so now I'm going to crank 7 or 8 rows, I'll do 7, of waste yarn. I don't count the cast on row, that's called a long tail cast on. This is 2. This is Bernat Premium yarn that I'm using, and it actually works really well in my machine, so I don't have to worry about tucking stitches for the most part when I'm using it for my waste yarn here, or for a project for that matter. Okay, so I think that was, I don't know, 4 maybe. And that's 5. I'll do 2 more. There we go. Coming around, I see that black marker coming around, so I know I'm near the end of my row. So I'm going to cut off my working yarn. Open the yarn guide. I'm going to put that yarn end between the last and the first black needle, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my working yarn. Now this again is Caron Cotton Ripple Cakes, and the first time I bought this yarn was for this project. I've made one already, and I'm going to make another one here. But for this project, and at first I thought, oh man, this is not going to work. First change your, while I'm thinking about it, bunny trail here. Change your counter to 0 to begin. I usually do it halfway through the last round of my waste yarn, but I was talking and I forgot. Okay, so we're going to insert our yarn. And I didn't like it at first because it's going to give us some trouble, and you'll see that. But I got a trick to fix that. And you know what? When each piece is only 40 rows, you can take the extra time and do the technique that I'm going to show you to make it work, okay? Because what it does is it tucks the stitches. It just doesn't want to take it. So I'm going to do 3 or 4 needles there. Then I grab the the ends of both of my working yarn, and I just pull it so that slips underneath there, and it's a little snug. Makes my first few stitches, and then I give it a tie. It makes my first few stitches nice tension, like the rest of my project is going to be. But the thing is with this yarn, okay, and I'm going to go really slow to make sure, with medium tension. With this yarn, you get a really loose stitch. I guess because it's cotton and it's 3-weight. And that's why we make a double panel for this particular project, so that it's got some substance to it. Okay, and so now I'm around on my second row, and as I'm turning, I'm watching to make sure that this, I don't know if you can see here, but this little, the stitch in the previous row is over those red teeth and down, so that when this needle grabs this yarn, it takes it down through that stitch. And and I want to just make sure that this stitch, as it passes past the yarn feeder, that loop goes down over the red teeth. If it doesn't, that's how you get a tucked stitch. And I will get one, I'll show you. And so if you're not familiar with a tucked stitch, see right there. See, I hope you can see that. This one did not go down over the red teeth. So what that's going to do, it's going to take both of these stitches and combine them, and that's how you get a tucked stitch. So I go very slowly when I'm turning, make sure that I catch that happening, and then I make sure it goes over those two teeth, and then I continue going. Okay, but now for the rest of the project, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to put very light pressure. Very light pressure on it. You're not pulling too hard. You're just pushing down, grabbing the end and pushing down just a little bit, so that what that essentially does is it puts this little loop over the red teeth, so that when this needle picks up the yarn, it takes it in between or down through that little loop, okay? Now, sorry for that big bandage on my hand there. I don't usually have a bandage on it, but I thought it would look better than what my hand actually looks like. We had family over last week, and I was making a caramel syrup for a Christmas cake. We were just having an early Christmas dinner with my parents who won't be here for Christmas, and I was stirring the hot, boiling sugar, and yes, it splattered. And boy, if you could have seen me dance and hoot and howl, when that hot sugar hit my hand, it peeled my skin back from about here all the way up in a section about like this. Literally peeled my skin. I couldn't get to the cold water fast enough, which I told you you're not supposed to do, but I did it because that's my instinct. And yeah, and it's healing. It doesn't hurt now. It only hurt for the first day or so. And now it just looks terrible, but that's why I've got this big bandage on, but we're going to persevere anyways. So you see what I'm doing. I'm grabbing and pulling down. Now, as you get longer, it's going to look like this is all stretched out of shape. But you'll fix that. Once you stretch it back into its lengthwise and widthwise at the end, it'll work out. But just my encouragement to you and my reminder is don't be pulling down too hard. You just put very light pressure on it. And as the and so there is no tension. You don't. Sometimes I wish I had a third hand because I'd like to put a little bit of tension on this, but I can't. So we just have to let it feed through and trust it's doing its job. Just make sure that when you put it in your yarn guide, that it I don't know if this piece is in the camera or not, but you make sure that you push it down and it goes way into that little nook that's at the back of your yarn guide, and that'll give it a little bit of tension. Okay, so you're going to continue doing this till you get 40 rows. Okay. That's it, 40 rows, because it's a 3-weight yarn. If you're choosing to do a 4-weight yarn, and it's not cotton, but it's any 4-weight yarn that you use, then do 33 rows. We're doing 40 rows because this is so thin, we need extra height. So I find that if you do with acrylic yarn, 4-weight yarn, or any 4-weight yarn, that you only need 33 rows on your Addi 46 to make what looks like a square when you get it off, okay? So go ahead, finish doing this till you get to row 40. You can go a little bit faster, and I usually do actually, just on because I'm talking and I'm not concentrating as much on what I'm doing here. But you can go a little bit faster, but don't go too fast. Just take your time, making sure those stitches go down over the red teeth before it picks up the yarn. And get 40 rows done, and when you get to your 40th row, come back and see me. So if you're back with me, you did 40 rows. How did it go? I hope you didn't have any tuck stitches. You know what? I never had one because I went slowly. But you know, the thing is I never, it never took me more than, I don't even think it would have taken me 10 minutes to do one of these. So that is worth the little extra effort to make sure you don't have to stop and fix tuck stitches. Now, I find that works on any project that I'm doing with any yarn that's giving me a hard time. You just take it and you give it some light pressure, just like what we just did. Okay, so now we're going to cut off our yarn end. We're going to open our yarn feeder. We're going to put it between the last white and the first black. We're going to go ahead and take our waste yarn, insert it in our yarn feeder. We're going to hold both ends and we don't need to make this tension the same, so you don't, as a habit, you might want to just do it, but you don't have to. And then you're going to tie that, give it one tie. Now, the thing is don't think because you changed yarn now that you don't have to do your same technique. You still have a row of 3-weight yarn on there, so you have to do this for the first row, okay? Just slightly like this. I'm not putting much pressure, just enough, and you'll get the feel of it, and you'll feel those stitches pop down over those red needles. And now I'm working on my, oops, make sure that there's I still see the white, so I'm gonna do this for 2 rows. Perhaps that's what I did the last time too. Okay, until you see the red or the waste yarn over those needles. Okay, my waste yarn is getting caught around my other ball there. Okay, and then you're gonna do like 7 rows. Don't worry about rolling that project up into a donut. It's very, very light and it's gonna touch the table while I'm doing this, but I would just leave it. And see, it looks all wrinkled and wonky because I was pulling it down, but trust me, that will fix. Okay. I think that's 6. And I'm actually going to stop there because I'm going to run out of yarn. So that's enough for me. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to cut off my waste yarn. I'm going to open the yarn guide. I'm going to put it in between the last white and the first black. Then I'm going to crank my handle till my barrel circles twice. On the second time around, it lets go. And then I always help it off just like this. Otherwise, sometimes it'll get stuck around the needles and then you're fighting with it. And if you just lightly help it off as it goes around, look how easy that comes off, okay? So you're gonna go ahead, once it's off, I always stretch my project lengthwise and widthwise with 3 weight yarn. Oops, it's getting stuck on the needle there. See, you do it when your machine is out of your way because this is really a loose stitch. So you're gonna stretch it lengthwise and widthwise just to line up all those stitches, but go very gently. You don't wanna give it as much of a tug as what you do with 4-weight acrylic yarn, okay? So just so that they snug up and you work out those wrinkles from pulling on it, okay? So we've got our first panel off. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna do that exact same thing one more time, and then see me back and we'll close up our ends and get it put together, all right? So this is one panel and you can see the black through it. So that tells you how thin it is. So, you know, you can use this as a dishcloth and have it as thin, like just one layer, or it's like a double layer, but you can use that as a dishcloth or a face cloth or whatever you would like. But it's gonna like really lose its shape really quickly. Once you get it wet and squeeze it, it'll be just like a limp little thing. So I think even if you're gonna use it as a washcloth or something, you should maybe do a double thickness. A double thickness just makes 100% difference in how it feels. It's soft and it's quilty and it's just beautiful. So when you take one panel off, don't think, oh, I'm not gonna like this and not persevere. Do your second panel because trust me, it makes a big, big difference when you got 2 together. Now I'm looking for my second panel that we're gonna sew together and I think I must have left it downstairs, so I'll be right back with you. Okay, I found it. Took some effort, but I found it. I'd gone to change my laundry from the dryer from the washing machine to the dryer and put it on top of the washing machine while I was doing that, and that's where it stayed. Okay, so you're going to take your one end, you're going to undo your little knot that you made with your 2 ends, and when you look for your working yarn there, you'll see that there's 2 stitches, one above the other. You're going to take your stitch marker, which is for me is always bobby pins, and you're going to put it in that one. Then you're going, if you have trouble finding where the first one is, pull on your waste yarn, and when you see what stitch it's coming out of, that's the stitch that you will put your other stitch marker in. This is stitch number 1 in the way I count, all the way around to 46. Now we want to go exactly half, so we're going to count 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 22, 23. This is my 23rd stitch. So this is my 24th stitch, and I know that these 2 are the side. That's the perfect center, okay? So I'm gonna go under stitch 24, so to speak, making sure I don't pick up the one that's below the next row. I'm gonna go under that one, and I'm gonna go up to the top, and I'm gonna grab that stitch. I'm gonna pull it through the one that's on my hook, so that's 2. Always count. That's 3. Because you do not want to miss a stitch, because then your whole row will unravel. That's 3. Then I'm going to pick this next one up and go through it. 4. Then to the bottom. It doesn't matter if you go under like that or if you go over. The thing is, you're just picking it up to pull it through the stitch that's on your loop. Okay, so 6, 7, 8, and you see how when you use a contrasting yarn, how easy it is to find those working stitches. Okay, if you're new, the working stitches are the ones that that you see at the very top of the row. All these little bumps are your working stitches, okay, on both sides. And you can see them very easily when you're using a contrasting color. So you go ahead and you pick up from the bottom, then the top, take it through the loop that's on your hook, bottom and the top, counting from the first one that you put on your hook, which was stitch 24 when you counted around, you count that as number 1, and you keep picking up, counting until you get to 46. So I'll see you back when you get to the end, and we'll finish this off together, okay? So keep going. All right, so we're at the end, and this is why I love bobby pins, because in this particular case, I can see it easily, but a lot of times, as you get further down the row, these starting to tighten up, and you can't tell where your stitch is. So you just pick up your bobby pin, and you put your hook under it, you pull it out, and you work that one. That's 45. And 46 is particularly hard, but one little thing that I'm thinking of as I'm telling you, when you're going down the row, make sure your yarn ends are not tucked inside of there. You need them to be out. If they're tucked inside, you have to undo your work and continue, okay? And redo it, because you need them to be on the outside. So you can tie them off and unwind your waste yarn, okay? So I'm gonna pull up on this. I'm going to take that stitch marker out. I'm gonna finish stitch 46, and I'm gonna yarn over my tail, and I'm going to put it through that loop on the hook, and essentially I've tied that off in a knot. I'm going to take off my waste yarn. Now this is the difficult side. This is the top of our project. This is where we started. That's always harder. So you want to roll up your rim until you get that very top row, and you're going to pinch the stitch on the left, and you're going to pull out that top row. You're going to do this all the way around, roll it up. If you don't roll it up enough and you grab this one instead of this top one, thinking that this is the top, it will tighten the whole thing, and then you'll have a knot and you'll have to cut it off. So make sure that you roll it up completely. You get that top one, pinch the stitch on the left, and pull it out. You can go down 10 stitches or so, however many you're comfortable. Pinch and pull. And you just have to do this for the first row. So roll it up, make sure you got that top one. It's very easy to mistake it for the second row. Pinch and pull. Just like that. There we go. Almost done. You could cut this tail off too as you go, so that it's not quite so long and you don't have to be finicky with it. But now see now how it just unravels just like that. Oops, I got it caught around a stitch there. Let me pull that one out, or cut it off, either way. But I don't want to cut it off because then I can use it again, right? Because it's the right length for my 7 row. So as long as it's still good, then I'll just wind it up and I'll use it for my waste yarn the next project that I do. Okay. So there we go. Just making sure it doesn't get wound around this little end here, because then you have to untighten it, and that's what causes the problem. Okay, there we go. And it's out. And you've got a nice straight edge. Okay, so then you're going to put this on your needle, this yarn end on your needle, and you're going to just go back and forth twice to hide it. And we're going to go to this other side. I'm going to show you how to find the stitches, and then you're going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so untie your knot. Get your yarn ends out of the center. Then if you take your working yarn and you pull on it, this is the working yarn. See, if I was to pull on this, this is the end. That's attached to my working yarn. That's my last stitch. Got to be careful with this one because it starts to unravel. You'll see it's already starting to unravel because that's the end of the project. It's always very finicky. And then where your working yarn is, your waste yarn is coming out of, that's your last stitch. So you're going to put those in on the outside. You're going to count around to 1, 2, 3, 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 23 and 24 are my middle stitches. I'm going to go under 24 count that as 1 as I'm working. Then I'm going to go up to the top there, bring it through. That's 2, 3, 4. Do that all the way down till you close off like we did the other side, and you'll be done, and then I'll see you back. But be very careful because you don't want this to all unravel and come off. This side is the one you have to be careful with. If you have trouble with that, then maybe on the last and the end of your project when you put waste yarn, do 10 or 12 rows of waste yarn, and then there's more room for it to unravel before you get to it, and then you're not gonna have to worry about it because sometimes it does just come apart. It's just the nature of the end that we're working on. So anyways, go ahead, finish that, and I'll see you back when you're done. All right, so I got that end closed off, and the waste yarn you just pull and it comes off. You don't have to take out the first row, you just pull it. Well, you'll see, because as you're working it, it'll start to get loose already. So I like to take my yarn end and I just weave it up at the top, go one direction, then I turn it around and I come back. And then I just go in between the 2 layers. Not very far, because it's such a loose knit, I don't want it a long end because I don't want it coming out. And then I snip it off. And then when I do my crochet border at the top, it's gonna hold that yarn end in place anyway, so you don't need a long end into the center of your work. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side. I have those metal needles with the plastic end that I always use and that I love. You'll see me using them in my other videos, but it doesn't go through this yarn very well, so I don't like them for this project. This one I have to have a pointier, sharper end like this one. Okay, so I'm going to go one way, then the other way, hoping that I'm staying on the camera. Come on, fight with me. Stop fighting with me. And then I'm going to just put that in the center, just a little bit. Okay, go ahead and snip that off. Careful not to get too close where you cut your project. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead, get my other piece. Make sure that the ends that you closed up are the ones that you put together, that you don't have it sideways like this, because it's close to a square, so you could easily get that mixed up. So make sure that your ends are together. It's just a little bit taller than a square should be. So this is about 8.5 long. Well, look at that, exactly 8.5. 8.5 by 8.5. That's a perfect square. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to grab our yarn, our working yarn that we have been using for our project. We're going to get our end. I use a crochet hook that is 4.5 millimeters for this particular project. I'm going to make a little slip knot. If you don't know how to do single crochet and half double crochet, go ahead and look for my Learn How to Crochet videos that are on my channel. Just click on my channel and go to videos and then scroll down and you'll find it. And that way you can practice your stitches before you go ahead and try to put this together. And you'll get it. So if you don't know how to do it, don't let your fear stop you from making this project. It's just one more thing you're gonna have to learn. Okay, so I always start up at the top, and I don't start at the corner. I start a little ways down. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hook underneath that rim of stitches. Now you're just gonna hold it like that. You don't have to. If I was using 4-weight yarn where you see the rows a lot better, I would count my rows. I would make sure that it's perfectly lined up. This, all you have to do, take a couple stitch markers that close, okay? Then what you're gonna do is line up your ends like this. You're gonna find a middle point. Just put one stitch marker there, just to hold your work in place, so that as you go down, you'll remove it. But on the top row, it's going to be a little hard because I'm starting really close to it. But just put one there and it'll hold your project in place so you can sort of eyeball where you go. So I'm going to yarn over, bring it through both sections and through that loop that was on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and chain one. Okay? All right. So then I'm going to do a single crochet back into that same stitch, yarn over, and then I show you how to do a single crochet, so I'm not going to make this a teaching video. When it comes to that, I'll go slow enough so that you can get it, but you really want to look at the video. I'm going to mark that first single crochet, okay, because that's where I'm going to slip stitch to join when I get around, so it's very important that you mark that if you don't know how to find it. Then I'm just going to go and I'm going to do single crochets all the way down, leaving about a row space. Like if you can see the rows, like I can see them, here's the wide part of the stitch. So like if you can see that in the camera here, the point of the stitch is here and the wide stitch is here. Then the next one is, the point is at the top. I'm going to go over to this one. So basically you're going every row. Now because it's hard to see with this yarn, you can kind of eyeball it. You don't have to be exact. Just make them evenly stitched across the top. I'm going to take this out because it's in my way and I don't actually need it at this point, okay? But you can put one down on the bottom here in the half, put one at the half mark here, and maybe one over there, and it just helps you to hold your project in place, okay? So then you're just going to go underneath that little lip of both of them. I'll call it a lip, but it's where you just finished joining, and you're going to do a single crochet all the way across. Not pulling tight, you have loose tension. I mean, you want a nice even stitch. You don't want it to be a big loop, but you don't want to have really tight tension. You just need a nice even tension, okay? And you're going to single crochet all the way across the top there until you get to the corner. In our corners, we do 3 single crochets in every corner, okay? I'm trying to stay on camera here, so it's a little bit awkward because my hands are a little distance from my body. But that's okay. Okay, keep it going here. I'm not even counting how many stitches I do. With this particular yarn, you know, other yarns, like I said, that are easier to see your rows, you would do 23 stitches across the top and 23 stitches across the bottom. But for this, I'm just going to do it nice and evenly across until I get to my corner. That's not my corner yet. I'm going to get a little bit closer. Do my single crochet there. And so you see my next stitch would be my corner. I'm going to give it a little bit of a turn. I'm going to go, make sure you go into both again. Then you're going to do a single crochet. That's one. Oh, see, it's a little bit harder to get under that knot. One there, then go same spot, 2, and the same spot, 3. That will help you turn your corner, okay? That will give you a nice corner there. So that's the corners that you do there. Now when you come along down the sides, you can see your stitches a little bit better, okay? So you're gonna make sure that you always have 4 strands of yarn on your hook. So I'm gonna go underneath that stitch, underneath that stitch. You see how I have 4? Because I took both pieces of the yarn. You don't wanna, or both ends of the stitch. You don't want to do that. You only got half your stitch and it's just not as secure. So you're going to go down that stitch. Then you're going to go down to the next one like that. And the next one. Do your single crochet all the way down. See, if I had a stitch marker in the middle there, then I would know that it's staying together. But you can just stop every once in a while, line it up, make sure that everything is lined up and that you don't have one that's way longer like this. You want to make sure that they are joined nicely and in place nicely, and you'll get a nice finished product, okay? Okay, and so we're going to go into that next one. I don't like how loose that was on my hook, so I'm going to do that again. And again, if you don't know how to single crochet, there is a technique to it other than just doing the stitch. You want to make sure it goes up to the back of your hook so that the wide, this is the 4.5 millimeter part. And if you're using a 6 millimeter hook, this would be the 6 millimeter. You got to always make sure your stitch is right up to the end of your hook. Okay. And yeah, so if you don't know how to crochet, check out my videos, learn how to crochet, and then come back and do this and you'll be successful. I know you will. Okay. So you keep doing that all the way down. You've got your row of single crochet. You've got 3 in every corner. And then you're going to do the same along the top here, same along the other side, making sure you do 3 single crochets in every corner, and then come back and see me and we'll join, and we're going to do a row of half double crochets. All right, I'm not finished yet, but I thought I would pop on and just show you. When you do 3 in the corners like this was my first one, this is my second, this is my third. Take a stitch marker and mark that second one, because that's where we're going to do a different technique for our corner when we get to it on our second row. And sometimes it's hard to tell which is the middle one there. So go ahead and put a stitch marker in the middle one of each corner. I'm gonna just grab another one here. I generally can tell which one it is, so I don't generally do this, but I'm going to do it for the sake of teaching you how to do it, okay? So in the second one of the 3 that you've done, go ahead and put a stitch marker on every corner, and that's going to help you when we get to our second row, all right? All right, so we made it around. We've got 3 single crochets in each corner, and then you've evenly spaced them down the top, bottom, and the side. We're back up at the top here where we started our first single crochet, which is where that stitch marker is. I've got right up close to it with a little space in between, just a small little space, and I'm going to take that out. Now I'm going to go underneath that stitch, yarn over, pull it through, and pull it through. That's called a slip stitch, okay? Then I'm going to chain 1, and into that same space, I'm going to do a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert it into that stitch, yarn over, pull it through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. You can mark that as your first stitch, because that's where we're going to slip stitch to join at the end. You're going to yarn over, go into that next single crochet that you made, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops on your hook. That's your second half double crochet. Again, I have a video on this, and I teach you how to do a foundation row. I teach you single crochet, double crochet, and half double crochet. And I will be adding to that as well. And I will be adding crochet projects in time as well, more crochet projects. And the Knacks part of my name, Shelly's knits and knacks. The knacks part is things that aren't crochet and knitting related, and I haven't got anything like that really up yet, so I will eventually. I want to do a Christmas tree out of a book. You fold the pages, and I actually did them with my seniors when I was working in a nursing home, or in a independent living facility, and we did them, and they were so gorgeous. You know, they're for, I would make them and display them. And so I'm gonna try to get that up. It's a real fun project that you do with an old book. And I'm gonna try to get that up one of these days. We'll see if I can get to it or not. I'm not gonna make any promises, but I wanna try. Okay, so you're going to half double crochet all the way down the row, trying to make sure that your tension is even. Okay, into every stitch. I love a half double crochet border. It's just a very simple way to make a border, but I think that on dishcloths and on hot pads like such as this and stuff, it just makes a very nice, simple, elegant border. Okay, so now we're getting close. You want to make sure this one stitch, the first stitch in my corner was a little bit wide, so that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do that one, but then I know that my stitch marker's in the next one. That is my middle stitch of my corner. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 half double crochets into that corner. You could do 1 half double crochet, a chain 1, and another half double crochet. That's one way of turning a corner, but for this project I'm choosing to just do 3 half double crochets in that middle stitch. Then we're gonna pick up that very next one, do 1 half double crochet, go down the row until we get to the next stitch marker. We're going to put 3 half double crochets in that stitch, and then 1 in every other one. Repeat it for that next corner and the next corner, and then see me back. Okay, so we're coming up on the end here. Way to go, guys. You got her done. Okay, we're coming up on the end. I have one more stitch that I'm going to do. This is a single crochet. This is a slip stitch to join, so we're not going to go into that one. You're just going to go into this stitch that's a bigger stitch. That little tiny one, just leave that. Okay, then we're going to take this stitch marker out, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So put your hook under those 2 bars in the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then take that loop through the loop that's on your hook, then yarn over and pull through that loop again. You're going to snip off your working yarn and just pull that through. Give it a little snug pull there, and that's how you tie a knot in it. I'm going to just clean up my station here a bit. You're going to take your yarn needle. I'm going to grab this metal one because it's easier to just grab here. And I'm going to thread my yarn, and I'm going to, see, this one is harder to get through this cotton. I don't know why, maybe because it's got a bigger end. And I'm going to go through there, then I'm going to take it down to this area because there's more to work with, okay? And then I'm going to just go underneath those stitches, 3 or 4 stitches there. Feed it along the side there, just like so. And then come back the other way. Okay, just like that. Don't pull it too tight because you don't want it to stretch your work, okay? And then I'm going to go in between. There's 4 layers now, so I'm going to just put it in between the layers there. Pull it through, cut it off. And there we go. We've got our hot pad ready to go. It is like seriously so thick. You take this thin yarn and you make 1 panel and it seems so flimsy and floppy. You put another panel with it and it's just gorgeous. Like I could wash my face with this and it would just feel so beautiful. I might make actually a couple of these and not worry about the duplicate stitching on them. You can if you want to give them as a gift. That would be beautiful. And use it, you know, make a mention of them as being for face cloths. Now if you want to, I never did this with the other one. It was just a thought I had in the very spur of the moment just right now. If you wanted to thread your working yarn here, then just come up in a couple spaces, just even like that, and go down. And then tie it on the back and hide those ends. It will keep this from all, it'll keep the 4 pieces together better, and it's not gonna lose its shape as much. So you can do that in like maybe 4 in the middle, and that'll keep your shape held together. And one like the top is not going to, you know, be a different size than the bottom because it's all stretched out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I won't do that on camera, but I am going to go ahead and do that. I just thought of it and I think it's a great idea, actually, if I do say so myself. Oh man. And I'm going to have them stay together like that. But for now, we're going to go ahead and do our duplicate stitch. I'll show you the tree that I did on the last one. Just like this. Okay. These stitches in here are harder to find because they're so loose, okay? But you always want to choose the row for duplicates. Go ahead and look for my video on duplicate stitching because I show you on 4-weight yarn how to do the duplicate stitch, and it's much easier on a 4-weight yarn to see the stitches. And once you can see that and know what you're doing, then it'll make it easier for you to do this project. But for the Christmas tree, because this is, I counted it out, like we did 40 rows. I've got 5 rows at the top and 5 rows at the bottom. So that's how I found my middle. All I did then was, or that's how I found where I wanted to center it lengthwise. I put 5 rows at the top, 5 rows at the bottom, because I figured out how many for each row there's 1 row of duplicate stitch, then there's 2 rows, then 1 row and 2 rows of plain, 1 row, 2 rows of plain. I see that I did 1 stitch a little too long here, but you know what? It's a Christmas tree and branches are different sizes, and that's actually okay. So if you do that, don't go back out and rip it out. I notice it, but betcha if you gave this to anybody, they would never notice it, okay? And all I did, which is so totally unlike me, because I didn't measure completely, I just folded it in half till I saw where the crease was. And then I did 1 duplicate stitch on either side of it, and that was my first row. Then I missed 2 rows, and then I did 4. So then you can do all the way down this row here if you like, and then do all the way down this row, all the way down this row, knowing that you're increasing each row by one on each side. But I didn't do it that way. You could do it that way, but then you would start down here and you'd work your way up, because it's easier to work your way up than it is to work your way down. But how I did it, totally confusing you, I'm sure, but there's so many ways to do it. I started here. I did this duplicate stitch, then I did this one. Then I went down and I did this one, so I knew it was on the same row. And then I went over and I did this one, then came under, did this one, and then I went down and I did this one, then over to this one, and then I went back and did these ones. And when I got to the end of that row, I did the one right underneath it, okay? And then I went over one, and then came back this way, and I followed that pattern all the way down. So when I got to the end of the row, I did the one underneath it, then did the one to the left of it, if I was on this side, and then went back and did over to this far one. Then I went down, missed 2 rows, went down, then did the one to the right of it, and then went back and did the row. And for this one, you're doing 2, and then 4, and then 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 16 stitches. Now I am going to draw it out on graph paper, and it'll be at the end of the video, so you can go ahead and look for that. But I also thought I would let me just grab my little pointer here. I thought I'd show you how I figured out where my next row down was, because seriously, it doesn't look like it, and to you it might not be hard, but I'm going to tell you, for me, it was hard for me to see the rows. And if you look at my work here, I'm going to just be completely honest with you, because I'm just like a normal knitter, just like what you are. There are 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. In between these 2, I only did 2 here. It was a mistake. I only did 2 here. And then I realized that I had only done 2 and not 3, so then I started doing 3 again. But for this particular pattern, it doesn't matter, because these rows are smaller in width, so you know, just have it tighter up at the top actually worked out. So I'm fine with that if you want to do that. And that's why it worked out that I have 5 stitches on the top and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 on the bottom. It's as close to centered as I could get it, but so you try to just do it the way it works for you. But I like the 2 rows in between. So for me to find the 2 rows in between, let's go down to this one here. Okay, so I'm finished this row, and I'm going to go down to this next row, and I need 2 rows in between, but I put 3 rows in between these ones. So bad example. Let's go up to here. Okay, so I'm going to say that when I'm done this one, I want 2 rows in between. So then I counted 1, 2, and then this is the one I'm duplicating. So I went down to that next one underneath it, because then at that point, that's when I go up and I miss that stitch and I go underneath this one and I duplicate the stitch underneath it. So count 1, 2, 3 and go under that point, under that stitch, and then you can duplicate it. I hope that makes sense to you. Down here because I did 3 rows by mistake, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that 4th one I came up in that point and then underneath this 3rd stitch here and duplicated it. In my head I must have thought that I was doing 3 rows in between. I'm not sure, but anyways, at least it looks fine. I think it works out fine. So if you make that mistake, I'll be honest and tell you my mistakes. There's that mistake, and then this one is through 2 stitches. But you know what? With this particular pattern, again, it honestly doesn't matter. It works out absolutely beautiful. So anyways, if you don't remember how to do the duplicate stitch, or you haven't learned how to do it, don't learn by watching this. Go to my video on my channel that shows you how to do duplicate stitch, and I'll show you how to do a simple duplicate stitch pattern on acrylic yarn where you can see these stitches better, and practice that before you go ahead and do this. Trust me, you'll be glad that you did. And for those of you who have done duplicate stitching before, you now know that there are essentially four layers, because there's 2 panels on here. 4 layers. When you're doing this stitch, go under 2. Go under 2 of those layers and not under all 4, of course, okay? So you'll feel that too, but I just think this is so beautiful. It just looks so country-ish, and so it's going to be a hot pad, but I had another great idea as I was starting my candy cane one, and I'm going to go grab it, because I probably won't set the table and show you, but let me Let me just run and grab it. This is like real television, but real YouTubing. And I have these clear plates that I got from the secondhand store. So go thrifting and you'll find them for like 50 cents or whatever. If I was to set my table with just a nice red tablecloth, or however you normally set it with your greens and whatever down the center. If I don't do fancy decorating, I'm very simple when I do decorating, and I like it that way. But if I was to make enough of these for each place setting, this could be like my Christmas dishes. And then I've got my Christmas tree there, and my next one is a candy cane, and I could alternate them. And I have a small family, so it won't take me much to do, but I think I'm gonna do that. And then with my serviette and my cutlery, I just think that's gonna look so cool. So anyways, use your imagination and figure out a purpose for these. But I made them as hot pads, and I think they'll be beautiful for that. But I might switch it up and use them for a placemat. I think it's cool. I love it. I think it doesn't look like a dishcloth underneath a dish towel underneath your plate. It looks like a placemat, placemat. And if you want to make it more fancy so it doesn't look like a dishcloth, then just do a shell pattern around the outside. Like do your 2 rows like this, and then crochet a shell pattern around the outside to make it look a little bit more fancy. But use your imagination, my friends, and just go for it. Okay, so let's pull out the candy cane one. I got it just started for you with the red. And I'm going to, and I need to get more organized here. I'm going to show you that for this candy cane pattern, it basically takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 rows to make the pattern, and we know we've got 40 rows, so that would leave us with 12 rows. So you're going to go six rows on top here, and then begin your pattern, okay? And that will help you. And so all I did was put it in half like this, so that I could see where the crease was, and then I figured this was my middle row. You can measure it out with your tape measure if you like, but this is pretty accurate actually. And so I did this first one, because that's my middle one, and I need 5. So I did 2 on this, and then I went across and I did that one. Now for my next, and I'm gonna take a screenshot of these 2 patterns and leave them at the end of the video so you'll see them. My next row, I'm gonna leave 2 rows, 1, 2, and then I'm going to go down to this one, and I'm gonna do this one here, and then I'm gonna do these 2, then I'm gonna come under and I'm gonna go to the rest of the row here, okay? And then from this one, I'm gonna go down to this one, just because it helps me to stay on the same row. And then I'm gonna go across to this one and do it, and then I'm gonna finish my row, okay? And then I'm gonna do that likewise all the way across, and then come down to this one and go across, and then I'll go over to this one, and then I just have to keep going straight down. So however it works for you, because you're not putting one stitch right under the other, you can go from top to bottom. If this stitch here was here, where you have one right on top of the other and you're going down in single like that, it's easier to work from the bottom and go up than it is from the top down. But because there's spaces in between each of these rows, it doesn't matter if you go from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, okay? So I'm choosing the top to the bottom, okay? So I know that I need to go down, I need to miss 2 rows, so I'm gonna go back in where I came out. Let me see if that's in the camera. I'm gonna go back in where I came out, then this is 1 row, this is the 2nd row. I wanna duplicate this particular stitch, so I'm gonna come up here, okay? So eyeball that, go between 2 layers, come up there, okay? So you seen what I just did? And that's how it helps me with this loose fabric to figure out. So now I've come up here, so here's 1 stitch, here's the 2nd row, and see, because in this particular yarn there's thick pieces and there's thin pieces, that's why it's hard to see. So this is my 1st row that I'm missing, this is my 2nd row that I'm missing, this is the stitch I want to duplicate, so I have to go to the base of it in the point. And then I'm going to go up to this 2nd one, go through those 2 stitches, and then back down where I came out, and then I'm gonna go over to my next stitch. There goes my doorbell. So that's how you do it. I'll be right back. That was Perlator dropping off a Christmas present. Woohoo! So here we go. I'm going to now do this one straight below. And if I look at the pattern, that's this one right here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to go across and I'm going to do this one, then I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to come back and finish that row. So that's how you do your duplicate stitch, and that's just a tip on how, because I messed up on the other one, did 2 rows in between or 3 rows, I thought I have to come up with a better system of seeing where these crazy stitches are. And so then I'm going to go across. And I'm going to duplicate this stitch, and then I have one more beside it, and then I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the one here, okay? And if you, again, you can't figure out where to put your needle, like this one seems easier to find than my last one, but then I'm going to count. This is 1 row. This is the 2nd row. This is the one I'm duplicating, so I'm going to come up in the point there, and then I'm going to go through the 2nd stitch there, and I'm going to duplicate the one underneath it. So that's how you do it, and you follow the pattern, and you get that done. And once I'm done, I'll come back on and I'll show it to you. And I'm going to take a picture of the duplicate stitching charts for the tree and for the candy cane, and you can just I'll put it on so that the video shows it for a few seconds so that you have time to take a screenshot of it, so then you can draw it out in your book, okay? So go ahead and finish up your project and then see me back. And there we have the candy cane. I thought I'd put the plate there so you could see how nice that looked too. Okay, one thing I apologize for is that I finished it off and hid the ends without showing you. But basically what I did is when I finished here, the end that I had here, I just went under the 2 layers and came up to where my beginning end was about there. And I came up in the same hole. Generally, I'll put a little, one of these little lines between it so that there's, there is, let me just show you. Let me grab my little, reach. When you are tying your 2 ends together, grab a little end. Like just one little line, whether that's underneath or in this case, I grabbed the one that was on the 2nd layer instead of the top layer because because we have 4 layers, I can do that. And so then tie your knot around that little bar right there, and then take those ends and then hide them. And then you can just lift this up here and you won't see that it's over that bar. But the reason why you do that is so that if you just tied it loosely underneath here, then you've got that loose string that can loosen your stitches here. So you want to secure it around a bar so that it doesn't undo your project. So the slack of the yarn on the inside doesn't come loose and undo your project. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed this project. I love it. I think, you know, it's just wonderful. And if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel. One thing I wanted to tell you is that so many people say to me, like, I've had many people on the comments on my YouTube channel, and thank you so much for your comments. I love reading them. I just find it so encouraging. But some people said, I want to show you my project, but how can I do that? You can't show a picture on YouTube. So with lots of thought, I finally decided that I was going to start another Facebook group. I hate, you know, if there's too many groups, then we're posting in several different places. And but mine is unique, I guess, because I have knitting and crochet and knickknacks, which will eventually be other things too. So I did go ahead and start a Facebook group called the same name as my channel here, and you can, I'm going to put that, I think I can put that link in the description. If I can, I will. If not, then go to Facebook groups and type in Koala Knits and Knacks, and please join that group too, so that when you make my stuff, you can post it. Now you can post other things that you make too and inspire others. I have absolutely no problem with that. The only thing I'm asking is that there's no selling, no promoting Etsy channels or anything like that. I like to do my stuff for free, and to make these YouTube videos available to you for free. And so I'd like to keep my Facebook group free as well. So please no promoting of your, if you have sites that you sell on, I don't want that promoted at all. I'll remove those if they're there. I just want this to be a site where we can share our projects, the things that you've made, the things that I've that you've made from my channel, that I can take a look and see. And again, you can add things that you've made that you want to inspire other people with that aren't from my channel too. But I'm going to go ahead and start that group. I have it already. I just haven't made it public yet. It's going to be a private group. You have to join it. And that way we can see each other's work. I'd love to see the ones that you make. And that would be a way of doing it. My name, again, you can see it in my description, is Shelley Weeb. If you post anything in that, please tag me, because I want to make sure I don't miss them. However, I will be diligent to go through all the posts, so that might not be necessary. But thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. I just absolutely love, love, love these pot holders. Hot pot pads, or whatever you want to call them, and I hope you do too, and that you enjoy making them. So take care, my friends, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, don't run away too quick, because here's the duplicate stitch patterns for the Christmas tree and the candy cane. The only problem is I couldn't get a still shot and have the full pattern showing, so I have it slowly moving up the page from the top to the bottom. So take a screenshot of the top half and a screenshot of the bottom half, and then draw it out on your graph paper and you'll have it. So sorry that's the best way I could figure out how to do it. I hope it helps. Anyways, happy knitting, my friends. Take care.